Sammy Hagar and Guy Fieri own a tequila company, and they lost 2 truckloads. That was $1 million worth of tequila. Now I was just at CSCMP and people were bringing it up, and I was like, "How did I miss this?" And then somebody sent me a note about it, and I'm going to do an interview on it. But somebody wrote an article that said, "No guns, no audacious anything. This is just getting into systems and stealing $1 million worth of tequila." This is so much more than the opportunistic theft that we saw 10 years ago. This is sophisticated. And when they knew exactly where that was coming from. I talked to somebody who was in Mexico recently, but he's lived over in the US too. He's a Mexican guy. And he said, Joe, he goes, the theft is so much more planned out.
Oh, yeah. The bad actors are getting very sophisticated,
Yeah.
very, very sophisticated. And I think, the the more technology that comes to market to address fraud and theft, the smarter the bad actors get.
By the way, we'll talk more about this in a minute, but that's why you got to get the Broker Carrier Summit, which Dawn sits on the board of the Broker Carrier Summit. So when is the Broker Carrier Summit and where is it?
The Broker Carrier Summit is October 28th, 29th, and 30th. Yes, in Orlando, Florida. So
Very
check it
nice.
out, brokercarriersummit.com. I'm super honored to be part of the Broker Carrier Summit. It's fairly new. I think we've been doing this for just over 2 years. I joined as a participant sponsor when they had their second event in Tampa, Florida. It was October 2 years ago, so 2023. It was the second event. Dan Lindsay, who was the founder, had done the first one in Indianapolis. It was something like 35 people showed up in a conference room,
Right.
with the goal of giving brokers and carriers, smaller brokers and owner operators, small fleets, the opportunity to network and just get in a room and talk through the issues because I'm a firm believer that, problems are solved when people are actually talking to each other. And face to face is even better. But Dan had done the first one. I got involved as a sponsor. In Tampa, where we had about 135 people show up, right? So we went from 35 to 135, and then we did the next one in Kansas City, and it was 300 people. So we will be in Orlando this October, and I think we're tracking towards 700 people, and it's all freight brokers and carriers and tech providers, but it's not your typical conference. It really is designed for networking and education. There is no expo hall. Our vendors are all told, this is not a selling event for you. There are no hard sells, right? And I'm also kind of the technology liaison. We are there to listen, right, to the market and to hear these conversations that are happening between the brokers and the carriers because, I'm a firm believer that technology can either um, be a deterrent. It can either, help to enable solving a problem or it can create problems when the technology in the middle isn't kind of designed to help. So that's why we're here, right? We're there to really listen to these conversations and give brokers and carriers a forum to come together.
Also, I know a lot of business gets done at these. So you get to know the brokers that you want to work with if you're a carrier. And if you're a carrier, you get to know some
Yes.
brokers. I said to Ann Renke a few years ago, we were doing something on freight fraud. And she said, before we hit the record button, what would you do, Joe? I said, well, of course I'd go after all the cool tech that's out there. I want to use all the tech, the highways and the freight verifies, all of them. Go ahead, get the tech. Make sure you vet. But also, if you don't get ripped off by the guy you've been working with for 5 years. I said, if you talk to them on the phone on a regular basis, you're probably not getting robbed by them. I do believe the freight recession has hurt us a little bit too, because I do think a lot of brokers and maybe even carriers too are getting a little desperate and making risky decisions. I don't know that. That just makes sense to me.
Yeah, but you're right on about the relationship piece, and there's so many cool stories that have come out of Broker Carrier Summit of